Hello everyone, Loremaster Tzeentch here, and this is a very brief video. This is going to be very quick, where I just wanted to show y'all a couple of really cool things from the patch that is coming out today. Thank to CA, they gave us just a tiny bit, literally just a day of, not even a full day of early access to mess around with some things, and I ran around, discovered as much stuff as I could within the short time that I had, and I just wanted to show y'all a couple of really cool things I discovered relating to the new patch. So obviously you have things like the Underway, or not the Underway, but the Deeps for the Dwarfs, which is a pretty fun experience. I'll just run through real quick the stuff that I've discovered of that. Whenever you open up the Deeps, it'll start with only the main slot unlocked. And if it's in a mountain, you get one additional slot. So like this slot would be empty and you could build a building. And then these four would be blocked off, and the way you unblock these is by upgrading this building. So you would upgrade the Grand Hall to the level 2 version, then to the level 3 version, and each time you upgrade it, it gives you more of the High King Decree resource, but it also gives you more slots. So for those that are curious to see all the new buildings, you have the Grand Hall, which makes it where you are more likely to discover Trickster Cults, Chaos Cults, and Skaven Undercities. You also get a Thane in your garrison, which is great. You then have the Magma Caverns, which when you build the unstable version at first, it's just bad. It builds in one turn, but it's just bad. It gives you negative control, penalty to chaos corruption, lowered income, lowered growth, and lowered control. However, you can mitigate the bottom effects if you have access, if you have a master engineer in the province, which is just a really cool gimmick. The idea that having a hero hanging around can actually mitigate the negative effects. However, once you get the garbage version of the Magma Caverns, you can get the upgraded version, which is really good. It still gives you permanent chaos corruption and control penalty. However, you have the items that you find have you have a higher chance of getting higher quality items, which is great. You also get a higher chance of finding items faction wide. All of your characters get bonus experience. You get +2 ranks locally, and you get +10 experience per turn faction wide. And you can build a Magma Cavern in every single hold if you want. So you can stack these buff to some ridiculous values. You then have the Guild Foundries building. So all of these 3 buildings here have a tree that goes up to tier 3, or there's an alternate version that stops at tier 2. So the tree version for the Guild Foundry gives you Oath Gold per turn, research rate, and recruitment cost reduction in that province, but lowers your control. If you upgrade it, you can get 5% additional income in that settlement per turn count. So the later in the game it is, the more additional income you get in that settlement. So right now for this campaign, I'm at turn 69. Nice. So when I'm looking at this building, I get 5% for each of those turns. So 5% times 69. However, I lose 5% for every settlement that I own. And I own a decent number of settlements, as this campaign I've been just running around grabbing a bunch of stuff. So it's not actually super crazy good at this exact moment because my empire is quite large. But you can see here, it gives you the same amount of Oath Gold per turn. The research rate, though, goes up to 10% instead of being at 3%, and the recruitment cost is also increased by 10% to a 20% discount. If you go up to the tier 3 version, basically all it gives you is that it gives you +2 control, and it also reduces your recruitment cost by another 10% to 30%. So it makes recruiting armies in this area really easy. However, you can instead do the repurposed Guild Foundry. So this one lowers the research rate. So instead of getting 10%, you only get 5%. But it does still give you that 30% recruitment cost reduction. Still gives you 20 Oath Gold per turn instead of 10. So it actually gives you more Oath. Oh, this actually gives you 20. This top one does. So they both give you 20. However, instead of giving you a substantial bonus to your income, assuming, you know, you're fairly late in the campaign, it gives you upkeep reduction faction-wide of 2% and construction cost reduction faction-wide of 2%, which is pretty dang good. And once again, you can build this in every single settlement if you want. You then have the counting room. The counting room basically gives you additional income based on the income of that settlement. It lowers your control, but it also gives you a growth bonus. So this will give you a 10% additional income. If you upgrade it, it goes up to 20% additional income. And the control bonus or debuff gets only a little bit not as bad. And you also get an additional amount of bonus income if your overall income is above 2,000 or more. So since this is in Karazakarak, because my income is over 2,000, instead of it being 20%, it's 30%. If I were to build that. And then this does the same thing, just better, where it gives you that growth. You no longer take control penalty, and it starts at 30% of your income as bonus. But if you are over 2,000, then it goes to 40%. And if you're over 5,000, it goes to 50% bonus income, which is just money, 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 money. Beyond that, you also have the option of the repurposed counting room, which this gives you significantly more growth. Also gives you a little bit of research rate and income from all buildings faction-wide. And if your control is above 50 in that province, then you get another minus 1% upkeep for all units faction-wide, an additional 10 growth, so that goes up to 30 growth, and you get another 5% research rate, so that knocks that up to 10%. Then you have the Clan Goldsmiths. The basic version of this basically destroys 100 oath gold per turn, but in exchange it gives you 300 gold per turn, which is nice. So it converts your oath gold into gold, but it also gives you a pretty hefty control penalty. If you go up its main tree, this makes it where you just get more income per turn, but your control, that's all it does. It just gives you more for that 100 per turn. If you go up to the max version, it gives you even more money. So if you have lots and lots of oath gold, you can go all the way up this tree to just convert a lot of it into money. However, you have this version, which is my preferred one, which is that it actually generates you a lot of oath gold. So depending on how much money the settlement is making, you make oath gold as well. So it starts off with 10 oath gold per turn, and then if you have 1,000 or more income, you get another 10 per turn. So that's 20 per turn. If you have over 2,000, you get another 20 per turn, so that's 40 per turn. And if you have over 5,000, you get another 20, so that'd be 60 oath gold per turn, which is absolutely fantastic. Actually, that's how it works, actually. Which is great. Then you have the Ruined Drinking Halls. So this one costs you dwarf beer as a resource. So whenever you build the regular beer building in your settlements, that generates dwarf beer. Ruined Drinking Halls costs you dwarf beer. It also only does the top thing, which is just it gives you a control bonus and it gives you just a tiny bit of income. But as you unlock certain technologies, the various guilds, you get additional income and additional control. So you can see here, because I have the Warriors Guild tech unlocked, I'm getting another 50 income per turn and another control. And once I get the Toolmakers Guild, I'll get another thing, and Construction Guild, I'll get another thing. However, once you have all three of those techs unlocked, you can then build the Drinking Halls, which the Drinking Halls cost you 10 beer per turn, but it gives you 300 gold per turn, plus 7 control, and if you are if this region is adjacent to any other dwarf faction, then you also gain +1 capacity for all character types, more dwarf beer, and plus allegiance points. So it's really, really good if you have like nearby friendly dwarves. You then have the Underdeep trade routes, which the base form gives you +10 growth, +20% money from trade tariffs, and +10% tradable resources produced. It also lowers your relationship with Skaven Greenskins and Chaos Dwarfs. And if you're adjacent to a allied dwarf faction, excluding yourself, of course, you get +10 diplomacy with dwarves, +10% research rate, plus another 30% trade tariff, so that goes up to 50%. And you also get another 10% tradable resources, which knocks it up to 20%. Then you have the Underdeep Mine, which is probably one of my favorites. So this only gives you 50 gold per turn. However, it gives you 20 oath gold per turn. It immediately grants you access to gemstones, iron, and marble, which is awesome for creating oath gold items, because these 3 resources are really critical to that. So basically, if you own any settlement and you put a deep in any of them, you immediately get access to a lot of different items. It also gives you the Call the Miners ability, which lets you summon miners onto the battlefield, which is so good. It lowers relationship with Skaven Greenskins and Chaos Dwarves. If you do not control the full province, it gives you more issues with Skaven Greenskins and Chaos Dwarves, but it also gives the garrison 2 miners. Then last, you have the strategy buildings. You have Seal the Hold, which you've seen likely in the articles, which gives you penalties to all diplomacy and reduces your growth by 100, which is a ton, but it also makes it where enemy heroes can't do anything in that province. You're immune to siege attrition, you get extra defense resources, and you get extra ammunition. It also gives you 2 Iron Breakers, which is great, into your garrison. And then if you have a very tiny empire, it gives you a bunch of additional buffs. Then this one is my favorite of the defensive buildings. It's so good, which is To the Last Dawi. So the downside to the Last Dawi, though whether or not it's a downside is debatable, is that if the settlement that you've built this structure in falls for any reason, like if it's captured, it cannot be... they can't occupy it. If they occupy it, the settlement is just destroyed. So basically the dwarves blow themselves up, which is pretty cool actually. But it gives you plus 50% post-battle income loot, which is great. Plus 10 leadership to units under siege, awesome. And if you have high control, you get another 10, so that's 20 leadership when under siege, which is basically unbreakable. Plus 5 melee defense when defending. But the sexy thing is it gives you 2 Slayers and 2 Giant Slayers in the garrison for that settlement, which is so strong. And if you have a teeny tiny empire, you get immune to psychology and massive casualty replenishment in that little area. So that's all super duper cool. As far as some unique things, there are a couple of unique versions of the Grand Entrance Hall. There are 3 of them. There's one in Skavenblight, one in Carrick 8 Peaks, and one in Zarnagarund. So there's a couple cool things about it. You'll notice that Kazakadak is a fairly basic one. So it has 6 slots essentially. Well, 5 actually. So it's got the main building and then 5 slots. However, if we go over to Zarnagarund and I go to my underway, you can see it has 7 slots. So you can build pretty much every single building. Not every single, because I don't have the 2 garrison structures, but you can build a lot of buildings. So that already is great. Carrick 8 Peaks is the same. It also starts with all of them already unlocked. So you don't have to, like, clear out debris. They just are unlocked. Furthermore, the Grand Entrance Hall has a unique buff. So because this is Zarnagarund, you get a diplomacy penalty with Chaos Dwarfs, but you get -3 Chaos Corruption faction-wide and 10% construction cost reduction, which is awesome. And the max tier version just gives you a better control against Chaos Corruption, which is super duper cool. Meanwhile, down in Carrick 8 Peaks, it also, you can see, has a very, very big underway. But furthermore, its Grand Hall also has a unique buff, which is that it gives you 5% extra experience to all characters faction-wide, plus 10 diplomacy with all dwarves, and -10 diplomacy with all Skaven and Greenskins. The fully upgraded version makes it where you get 10% character experience in addition. And then look at this! A dilemma that allows you to move your capital to Carrick 8 Peaks. That is super fun. I'm playing as Thorgrim, just to be clear, but that's for any of the dwarf factions. So that's just super fun. It gives you the ability to reclaim Carrick 8 Peaks and be like, this is where we'll plant our banner, which is just really, really cool. So I have not gotten the Skaven Blight yet, so you'll have to figure that out for yourself. Or wait until I eventually get around to it. But some other little quick things. Thorgrim does have a nice new skill tree. It's not like crazy different. They just added his High King decrees to a couple things. So you can see here that Ancient Bloodline, which is one of his unique skills, gives him +1 High King decree. He also gets one from the High King skill, which gives him another High King decree. And then Right the Wrongs gives him another High King decree. So that's +3, and he actually starts the campaign with 2. So you can see here that currently I've generated 10, and 9 of them are in use on various buildings. But yeah, so very exciting things. Also, the unusual locations, which they spawn in the old world. They don't tend to spawn in other places. They are not super easy to find. They also do not necessarily show up when you take a settlement. They can show up later on just from you sitting on a settlement. So I've only gotten 1 so far, and it spawned in the High Place. And I got a really, really cool one. I got the Assassin's Hideout. So this gives 10% ambush defense chance for my faction in that region. And then, oh wait, no, sorry, it's all armies. Oh, it's ambush defense chance. Jesus, I'm tired. So it's 10% ambush defense chance to all of my armies, which is amazing. And it also gives +3 recruit ranks in that province, which is great. But you'll notice it also has a chance for me to gain traits on my characters. And it's for lords and heroes. So on here, you'll see that I got assassin training, which gives my characters 100 experience per turn, minus 20% chance for enemy heroes to get them with an agent action, and Vanguard deployment, which is really, really fun. And it can get on lords and heroes. So you can see it's here on one of my Dragon Slayers. So that's everything I have to show you for this dwarf campaign. I am going to fold out real quick and go hop into another campaign to show off a couple other little things, and we'll go from there. Welcome back, everyone. So I've hopped into a quick Cathay campaign here to just show you some things that I've discovered from the new caravan system, which is really, really nice. You can have multiple caravans at once. I'm playing Zhao Ming because he actually starts with the ability to send 2 caravans simultaneously, with there being a new tech that allows you to get up to 3. But there's also, as you can see, some new end locations. So you can go to Gisero, Nuln, and Barakvar in addition to all of the old ones. I wanted to show you just a couple of little cool things that I managed to pick up thanks to that. The big ones being that there's some cool new items. So from Gisero, you get the Mantle of Damsel Elena, which is very cool. It gives the character that wears it +5 armor, -2 corruption, and immune to contact effects, which is quite nice. Nuln gives you probably the most overpowered one, which is the Experimental Explosive, which not only gives you the Experimental Explosive, which gives you a bomb you can throw at somebody and it blows up, but it gives you +10% explosion radius to all units in your army and +10% explosive missile damage. This is very, 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 very strong if you are using fire rain rockets or you are using the sky junks. It makes them very scary. There is also supposed to be one more. Oh, this is so I could actually in my turn talk for a moment. But the caravan system is very, very nice now, especially because you do get units, which is really, really fun. So for instance, if you go to Erengrad, you get Akshina ambushers. If you go to Gisero, you get questing knights. If you go to Nuln, you get Hellstorm rocket batteries. And if you go to... Ooh, more stuff to sell, but it's chaosy. Sure. If you go to Barakvar, you get an organ gun. You also get the Star Metal Plate, which this is probably one of the most powerful caravan items that I've seen. So, besides the Von Karstein Blade. So this one gives the wielder +10 armor, +15 melee defense, 10% missile resistance, and the Star Metal Plate, which lowers melee attack of all nearby enemies by -8, so long as your leadership is above 50%. So that's really, really strong. That's one of the strongest items you can get, in my opinion. I haven't had a chance to see what every single settlement gives you, because I've only, like I said, I've only had so much time and not a lot of it I got to spend messing around with this. So make sure you explore what the other caravan things are. And also, I'll show you that the new tech is way over here. It's the new Widened Roads tech, which gives you +1 maximum caravans and plus 10% maximum caravan cargo capacity. And you can see here that Zhao Ming has a pretty nasty, pretty awesome buff as the ruler of the Western Provinces, where he has that 20% maximum caravan cargo capacity, in addition to getting an extra caravan because he's the Lord of Shenyang, which is super cool. So last thing I'm gonna do is pop into the new Chaos Cults. So stand by, and I'll see you in a moment. All right, welcome to Kairos Fate Weaver, everyone. So Kairos, uniquely, is the only character that has the Tzeentch Cults, because as you might expect from everybody's favorite Changeling, he has his own unique system with the Parasite Cults and the Symbiotic Cults. So the Changeling does not interact with the system. This is exclusive to Kairos at this moment. So a normal Chaos Cult looks like this, where you have two slots. One of the things that you're gonna want to be pretty aggressive about are the Acolyte Trials. The Acolyte Trials cost you quite a bit of money per turn, but they increase corruption and they have very high discoverability. However, if you build it, after 10 turns, you can destroy that building to create a Cult Magus, which a Cult Magus allows you to do this, where he builds a settlement that has 3, and he also automatically builds the Cult Magus Chambers, which is the only cult building that lowers discoverability, so it's pretty important. It also generates income. It steals some income from the owner, which is nice if you send it somewhere like special, like Altdorf or Lothern. It spreads corruption, and then if your corruption is high enough, it gives you above 50, gives you +1 recruit rank to all lords and heroes faction wide, +1 capacity for cultists, and if you get it above 75, it also gives you just way more corruption, so it makes itself more stubborn. As far as what all the buildings are, you have the complex stratagems, which give you 5 grimoires per turn, enable lightning strike battles in that province, which is very good. It's province wide and gives you lightning strike. That is amazing. Also gives your heroes plus 50% success chance to all their actions, whether that's assassinations or blowing up buildings or stealing technology. So that's really, really good. And also gives Vanguard deployment to your armies in that province. This one is extremely good for Tzeentch. The Branching Paths gives you 10 grimoires per turn. It also has a 5% chance to spread the cult, which Tzeentch, this is unique to Tzeentch, if remember, I think actually Khorne might have something similar. But, so Tzeentch has the ability for his cults to spread like Skaven Undercities can. You'll notice that if the Winds of Magic is strong or higher, you get additional grimoires per turn and another 5%, so it goes up to 10% chance to expand. The Intricate Preparations is one we've already seen before, which is that it costs 20 grimoires per turn, but it makes your Changing of the Ways, which is all of these, 80% cheaper, which is freaking ridiculous. But it also has a 200 discoverability, so the AI is going to destroy it almost immediately. The rest of them only have like +40, so you can have 2 of them and you're floating around in 80. Tzeentchian Trickery, this one's very standard for all of the factions. So it gives 5 corruption, but if you have any hero in that region, it goes up to 15 corruption. So if you're running like a cultist of Tzeentch, and he's hanging around this cult, and you've maxed out his corruption, you'll be sitting around like 20-ish corruption per turn, which is very good. You then have Tzeentch's Mastery, gives your heroes in that local province a 30% success chance bonus, +5 Tzeentch corruption, and if you're above 50 corruption, you get more Tzeentch corruption in all adjacent provinces. Local enemy heroes get a very, very poor chance of succeeding at anything, and character experience faction-wide goes up by 5%. Very good. You then have the rituals. This one is the Tzeentch Special, which is the Ritual of the Winds. This will destroy the cult. However, it will give you 500 grimoires instantly, and it makes the Winds of Magic in this province and all adjacent provinces max. So you knock up to a tempestuous storm of magic, which is really, really nice. Excuse me. You then have the Ritual of Summoning, which is standard for all the Chaos Gods. It costs 1 turn, and you immediately teleport your faction leader. Then you have a unique building for making a cult magus cult. So because this is the cult magus, you can also do the ritual of cults, which for Tzeentch is very good. This gives you 3 random Tzeentch cults across the world, which is fantastic. So it's like the Slaanesh ability, where Slaanesh has the button at the top, where if he clicks on it, he just randomly generates 3 new cults. Tzeentch can do that through this particular building, which is really, really good. So that's it for Tzeentch. Let's move on. All right, welcome to the Slaanesh campaign, where I'm going to show you off the Slaanesh cult buildings. So the very, very basic one that you start with right away, Dakari is quite nice because he starts with the cult in the White Tower of Hoeth, which is very helpful. So you have the standard building, which allows you to, of course, build your Magus and send him out. And then once you make a Magus cult, you get this building, which is pretty much the same as the Tzeentch building. You get a bit of income, you steal a bit of income from the settlement owner, it generates corruption, and it pretty much does the exact same thing. If you, actually, I think it does the exact same thing. You get +1 recruit rank for all lords and heroes, +1 capacity for cult, -20 discoverability, not the discoverability, but the plus rank in hero capacities. If you're 50 or more corruption, then 75 or more corruption, you just generate more corruption. Then for the actual buildings, you have the devotee enticement. So this gives you just devotees per turn. It's really, really solid. It gives you 2 per turn guaranteed. If your corruption is 50 or higher, that's another 2 per turn. If you have one of your own heroes present, that's another 2 per turn. And if an enemy lord is present, you get +5 per turn, which is really nice. So, because the AI does like to kind of sit in the same place, building up a lot of the time. So you can generate a nice, healthy 11 devotees per turn if you play your cards right. You then have Charm Offensive, which is quite solid, but it costs you devotees to keep it running. So this one gives you a temporary diplomacy bonus with the settlement owner. However, while this building is active, you gain 2 seductive influence per turn for whoever owns that settlement. If you have over 50 corruption, you get another 2, so that goes up to 4 seductive influence per turn. You also get +50 gold, and if the control, this is interesting, if the control of the AI is 50 or higher, so if the AI has good control over that province, then you get more seductive influence over them and a little bit more money. But each of these, the basic building costs 3 devotees per turn, and then each of the bonuses costs an additional 1, so it can cost you up to 5 per turn. You then have the Lure of Slaanesh. This one's really strong if it's an area you think you're going to be fighting in. It reduces the seduce units cost in that entire province by 80%, which is very, very good. Though it does cost you 5 devotees per turn, but Slaanesh, you're often drowning in devotees, to be honest. If control of the enemy, if the AI has control of 75 or higher, you also get a higher budget for seducing units, so you can seduce more units. And if Slaanesh corruption is above 75, you can also get that. This one, interestingly, increases your discoverability by 50 instead of 40, which is rather unique. But reducing seduce unit cost by 80% is outrageous. That is incredibly powerful. This is kind of the answer to Tzeentch's like enabled lightning strike one, in my opinion. Like, this one's really good. It also only takes 1 turn to build, so you can use it as a reactionary building, which is really nice. Words of Temptation. So every god has this. Every single god has this building, which is just, it gives you 5 corruption by itself, but if you have a hero, it goes up to 15 corruption per turn. This building is for all 4 gods, and it's in the same slot. It's always the 4th building. Then last, you have Population Preparation. This one gives the owner of the region, +2 control, +5 growth, plus 10% income from all of their buildings, but it also gives them +5 Slaanesh corruption. If the Slaanesh corruption goes above 50, they get you get 3 corruption to all adjacent provinces, but the owner of that area gets +20 growth and +5 control. Population Preparation is super duper 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 good for a faction that you have vassalized. So if you've taken over a faction and they are, they're your bitch now, Population Preparation is really, really good because it helps them. It buffs the AI. For your unique ritual, you have Ritual of the Disciples. This one's super great. It summons a disciple army. Perfect. So your disciple armies, that's a mechanic that Slaanesh has access to, where he could basically just spawn an army that just shows up and starts kicking ass and chewing bubblegum. This lets you do that anywhere in the world you want, as long as you have a cult there. And then you have your teleport. And then the unique thing that you get for the Magus Chambers is the Ritual of Excess. This, once it's completed, gives the owner of the settlement, not you, the owner of the settlement, 5,000 gold, which is nice for them. But it also immediately gives them plus 200 seductive influence, which, just to put it in perspective, for Alariel, granted, this is on easy because I was just rushing through, but Alariel on this difficulty, it might be higher on higher difficulties, is only 390. So, if I built that building, she would be over 50% seduced immediately, which is really, really good. So that's it for Slaanesh. Let's move on. Oh, actually, the last thing I want to say is you do still have proliferate cults, which is awesome. So it just spawns 3 cults randomly in the world, which is really, really nice. Also, Slaanesh is currently the only god whose cultist has established cult as a blue skill, which makes it cheaper for them to establish cults. I will say, I hope they add this to all of the other cultists. I think it should just be a universal skill instead of Slaanesh only, because it's not that, it's not that crazy powerful. It just makes your cult cheaper to establish. Whoop-de-doo. Even when you establish a cult, you still have a 15-turn timer, a 15-turn cooldown until you can establish a new one. But yeah, Slaanesh cults, great. All right, welcome to Nurgle, who of course is hilariously at this moment the only monogod faction that actually has 3 characters that benefit from the new cult system. Though I will say, Epidemius benefits by far the most. If you really want to dig into cults for Nurgle, Epidemius is your boy. It is his bread and butter. So as far as what his cults bring to the table, you obviously have the basic one, which works the exact same, allows you to, make your Magus. Once you make your Magus, you get the basic Magus building, which is the same for every faction. Gives you plus 3 corruption, gives you a little bit of money, steal some income. And then when you have enough corruption, it gives you Lord Recruit rank stuff, reduces culpability or discoverability, all that stuff. So as far as what the Nurgle ones do, you have Poxweaver. This one's quite nice, gives you 5 infections per turn, but if you manage to put it somewhere where the AI likes to park their lords, you get 25 infections per turn. That is very, very nice for only 600 gold. You have Pathogen Propagator, which gives you 50 gold per turn. However, if the settlement has a plague, it becomes 350 gold per turn. So this one, you kind of have to micromanage a little bit, but if it's nearby where your empire is, it's quite good. Plague Inducer, this one is very solid. So it costs you 2 infections per turn. However, it increases plague duration by 50%. If you have 75 or higher Nurgle corruption, it goes up to 100% plague duration, which can be quite nasty. However, it will cost you 5 infections per turn. You then have the Nurgle corruption one, whoop-de-doo. That one's standard for all the Chaos Gods. Then you have the Concoction Chamber. So this one gives you 5 corruption per turn. However, if you have 50 or more corruption, it gives you more corruption around plus 10% research rate, which is quite nice. If you stack a lot of these buildings all over the world, this is very good. And it also gives you 20 unit experience per turn. Once again, very good if you stack it across the world. Nurgle's Ritual is what everyone assumed it would be, which is that it costs 1 turn, costs you 100 infections, but it immediately generates a random plague. Like I said, for Epidemius, this is GOAT tier, because if you just send out a bunch of cultists and you just keep doing rituals of plague, Epidemius will be at his maximum tally almost always. You then, of course, have your teleport ritual. And then for the unique one for the Cult Magus, you get the Ritual of Pestilence, which is insane for Epidemius, but it's also just good in general. So the Ritual of Pestilence gives that settlement a random plague, but then every single adjacent settlement also gets a random plague. So if you drop this in the right place, you can get like 5 or 6 plagues immediately, which is just super funny. Really, really good. I will say that I think Nurgle's overall buildings are a bit weaker than Slaanesh and Tzeentch. Slaanesh has that really nasty one that reduces seduction budget, and Tzeentch has that really powerful one that gives lightning strike and vanguard deployment. Nurgle doesn't really have anything that's on that par. I actually think they can afford to buff Nurgles quite a bit. Like, I would probably take the Pathogen Propagator building and make that a fair bit more powerful. Though I believe he has some of the best corruption spreading. Like this building, the Plague Inducer, I feel like this one could be better. This one's, it's good, but I think instead of duration, if it increased duration and spreadability, so like virility or whatever it is that increases the chance that it spreads, if it increased both of those by 50%, I think this would be like really, really strong. But Nurgle, I think Nurgle's definitely the weakest of the three as far as what the actual cult does. But I will note that when you synergize it with the characters, particularly Epidemius, his cults are the strongest of all of the gods, to be frank. Epidemius is terrifying if he gets his cult up and running. All right, moving on. All right, and the last stop on our tour of patch 5.2 is for Khorne. Because like I said, I've not even gotten close to checking out all the new stuff. I did as much as I could, but there's still more to do. So for Khorne's cults, you have the exact same standard where it comes, your Acolyte trials, and then you get your Magus. Once you get your Magus, you get the Khorne building, which does the exact same thing all the other ones do, as far as it lowers discoverability for the Cult Magus Chambers, you get some money, yada, yada, yada. But then what do the regular buildings do? So for Khorne, you get the Pledge of Blood. This one's actually quite funny. So Pledge of Blood gives you 100 skulls anytime anybody fights in that province. So it doesn't matter if it's you. If the AI is fighting other AI, you still get 100 skulls. Furthermore, the income from post-battle loot for you goes up by 200%. So you get so much money. And if you have 50 or more corruption, it goes up to 300%. However, all enemy armies in that province get plus 10 melee attack, plus 10 melee defense, and plus 10 leadership. So your enemies get really scary. They get really buff, but you get so much money out of it. So it's definitely a very double-edged sword, but I do like it a lot. You kind of are able to pick a place and be like, I'm going to mess that place up in particular, and I'm even going to make them stronger just to give myself a harder fight, but boy, am I going to be rich. Very, very interesting building. This one is, I think, by far the most powerful for Khorne. So it gives you plus 20% casualty replenishment rate for your characters only. Not all your units, just your characters. But plus 20% casualty replenishment is still great. It means your characters are going to heal really well. But it lets you recruit units locally in enemy territory. And it gives you basic Marauders, basic Bloodletters, and basic Chaos Warriors of Khorne, which is a really solid set. Early game, like early campaign, this is a very, very good building. Furthermore, if you have above 50 Khorne corruption, you get 30 skulls per turn and 200 gold per turn, which is nothing to sneeze at. This one, the Halls of Challenge, amazing building, just for the fact that it lets you recruit on the go. That, in my opinion, that is quite huge for Khorne. You then have Cries of Havoc. So Cries of Havoc, this one's a little interesting because it doesn't actually do anything until you get your Khorne corruption high enough. So if the AI's control is positive, it lowers control a little bit. It lowers control in all of your provinces. So if the AI has good control, your control lowers. However, if you get above 50 Khorne corruption, this building gets pretty ridiculous. So it gives you +1 turns for your blood host not taking attrition damage. It also gives +2% melee attack for all your blood hosts, and it lowers the upkeep for all of your blood hosts. So and this stacks, so if you actually get like 5 Cries of Havoc buildings up and running, and they all have high enough corruption, all of which could easily be in the same province or right next to each other, you could pretty grossly buff your blood host armies and make them substantially more durable, and also a lot cheaper to maintain, which is quite nice. You then have Call of Khorne, this is just your standard corruption building, and then Battle Howls. This one's pretty good if you get it activated. So Battle Howls gives you +5 corruption, pretty good. However, once you have above 50 corruption, you spread Khorne corruption, you get 20 experience per turn faction wide, but +2 charge bonus faction wide. This is a really easy building to stack. If you build the Battle Howl building and the Call of Khorne building in the same area, so they'll only have 80 discoverability, which isn't too bad, and then you have a hero parked on top of it, that is 20, not including your hero, so probably higher, but at least 20 Khornate Corruption per turn, and when you get above 50, that +2 charge bonus, if once again, get 5 of these anywhere on the campaign map, and all of your units faction-wide have +10 charge. That gets really gross really fast. For the big ritual, obviously you have the Ritual of Summoning, but then you have the Ritual of Skulls. This one is very, 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 very good. It's kind of hilarious because it does declare war on a random faction somewhere on the campaign map, which is hilarious, but feels very Khorne appropriate. However, it gives you 1,000 skulls and 5,000 gold. Considering that often when I'm playing my Khorne campaigns, I'm almost always in the red as far as like my income per turn, being able to just get 5,000 gold anytime I need it, and this building is free. That's the other thing nice about it. It costs nothing. It's completely free to build. It does not increase your discoverability. The only downside is it destroys the cult. But like, yeah, this one's really good to spam. And then if you have a Magus Chamber, you can also do the Ritual of Blood, which also declares war on a random faction, but instantly heals all of your units faction-wide, which I think includes your Blood Host, but I'll have to test that. Anyway, that is the end of our tour. I hope you all really enjoyed it. I imagine by the time this video comes out, most of y'all are already delved into the game and are already playing and having fun. But I just wanted to put this out for anyone that just kind of wanted to catch up on everything that's going on. Or like you're stuck at work or you just don't have time to play or whatever. You're like, oh, I want to see kind of what's going on. So I will definitely be playing here some more soon to explore various parts of the world still, because I still have to like do all of the Ivory Road locations. I still need to find the other 19 unusual locations and yada 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 yada. So hopefully you all enjoyed the video. I'm sure there will be other things coming out from other content creators who are finding their own cool things. But I hope you all have a lovely day, and I'll see you when I see you. Bye.